Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn, where each and every week we explore topics to help you elevate your mindset, be at your best, and radically expand your life and business. And today I'm so excited because I have a phenomenal guest with me. This is Iryna Lozinska. She is principal at KKR, a leading global investment firm based out of New York City. And she is someone that is a force to be reckoned with. She is a beautiful soul. She's also extremely dedicated to her work, to her team, and to really showing up as her best self for her life and also in her own community. And we were having a chat the other day, and we were talking about leadership and personal growth. And I started asking her about how she got started in it and what she's noticed in her world. And she says, well, she's going to tell you about that today. So stay tuned, because I do think this need to share leaders' journeys and their relationship with personal growth is absolutely huge. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, those that mentor others and how they can share their stories. So Iryna, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Larissa, and for that very wonderful introduction.
So tell us a little bit more. I gave the title, but tell us a little bit more about what you actually do. Like, who are you and what do you do?
So I work in technology at an investment company, as you mentioned. Basically, there's a few business functions at my company that I lead and support from a technology perspective. So it's building a new application, supporting existing applications, and really helping the business streamline their processes so that they can do a better job, and us as a whole, we all prosper.
Beautiful. And so how did you first get involved in the world of personal growth and development? Like what got you there?
There was a time in my career, or especially in the beginning, where I felt like I was learning, I was progressing. There was something that I was looking forward to. And then there came a moment where I was just living on autopilot. I had my job figured out. I didn't really have a clear next step or something that I was working towards. And that was like my wake-up call. I didn't want to plateau. I wanted to keep growing. I wanted to have a more fulfilling life.
And that's what would you say some of the specific signs are? Like, how did you know you were on autopilot? I think we hear this term like living on autopilot a lot of the time, but what were some of your signs that you were actually living life on autopilot and just going through the motions?
It just felt like I had the same day. The questions that I had at work, the things that I was working on, I was repeating the same things. I wasn't learning anything new. And there wasn't like a project or something where I felt like I was growing at all. And just realizing that like it just got to a point where like I had it figured out. Like there was nothing new. There's no newness. It was just the same.
Yeah. And so in your early phase, like throughout your journey, you've been active in your own personal growth and development journey in various different ways. What are some of the things that you've actually done to learn, grow, and develop yourself?
So our coaching. So for everybody listening, I do work with Larissa. We have group calls, we have morning success calls. And I think just doing that has really helped me. So when we started out, the first question is, what do you want? And I didn't know what I wanted. And it took me months of asking myself that question to find myself again, figure out what I want, and get myself back on track to create like a life that I feel happy with. And then through that, like once you do figure out what you want, is then reflecting on your life to see like what habits could you improve. How can you improve your workday? How can you work more efficiently? Like there are all these techniques, and I think they're not really taught in school or even professionally. I think people mentor you from a business perspective or more from a technical perspective, but people don't mentor you from how to approach work, to be more productive, to be more focused, to really get results. So I think that's where what I've been learning in the personal growth industry has really like helped me excel and helped me get to the next level.
One of the things I often like to think about is you have the inner world and the outer world. And the external, the tactical, the strategic, the all the steps to do your job, those are taught in school. Those are taught in your company. Those are taught as you adopt your role. However, some of the simpler things like how to function and be satisfied, how to make effective decisions, how to have really powerful communication, those are thought of as soft skills when those are generally responsible for 90-95% of the actual results you get. Because if you go into any of these scenarios and don't have those basic fundamental skills, or if you go into situations with fear, like good luck going into a negotiation with fear, good luck trying to get your team to buy into your concept that you know is so good from your heart and soul.
Yep.
If you have friction, and it doesn't matter how good your plan is, if you don't have that, I don't know if it's community or that communication energetic dynamic, it's never going to work, or it's just not going to work as effectively. It's going to be so hard to do. And so what has kept you sticking with personal growth over the years?
For me, I would say it's been a combination of two things. One is I really saw the results. Once I started doing this work, it felt like my world expanded. I got more opportunities, and as I did a good job, even more opportunities came. So I just saw this shift in myself and in my world and how it was expanding. And then the second part is I think that personal growth is not something that we can do over a weekend, a week, or a month. It's something that we just need to keep checking in on, because one, we evolve. What we want evolves, our vision evolves. And if we're not checking in, I think we just get lost again. We get back into the status quo, whatever rhythm we're currently doing, and then we kind of lose, that spark again. And then you kind of get back into, am I living the life that I want? So I think it's just something like you just keep checking in on. And like, for me, I feel happy doing it, because like I then have a life that I want.
I know in the early days, a big part of what we had talked about in our work together was scheduling and management and just work-life balance and energy. One of the things that over the past, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 years, you've started doing really diligently, maybe if even the past year, is you started running very consistently. You got a personal trainer. And I keep seeing these posts on Instagram that you're like, oh yeah, went to visit a new city, went on business to a new city, and there was a marathon happening. So I just decided to jump in this weekend. And it's not to do with work. You're not even doing it to be majorly competitive, yet you're just stepping into this thing, and you found this passion that you love, that motivates you, that drives you, that fuels you, that helps you bring the energy to your life and business that you were craving so long ago. So can you maybe talk about that side of things and how really taking care of yourself has actually made you more effective in your business and in your work?
Yes, like on the healthcare journey, for a long time, I've always just felt like I have time. I'll start going to the gym next week. Oh, I'll do it next week. There's always time. And I never really prioritized it because I kept on prioritizing my work. And at some point, I realized my posture sucks. And I looked at myself and I'm like, this is not who I want to be. I don't want to look like an old lady and not be able to stand straight. Like, that's where I was at. So I really made a priority. I want to focus on my fitness. And I started the personal training to help with like my strength, my posture. And I also started running because running felt to me like a release. I'm able to just get lost in my thoughts. Like during the day, there's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of incoming information. And when I run, it's just me and myself and observing the world around me, and it calms me. Training for the marathon, that was also like a challenge because you just can't run a marathon. You can't decide to run a marathon and just run it tomorrow. Like, you have to put in the work. Right now it's running 5 days a week consistently. And you're building on your runs. They're getting longer. They take 2 hours. You run 2 hours on a weekday. So it has helped me a lot in terms of like, I had to make time for it. I had no option. And that helped me like time block better. Like my work is between these hours. I need to be efficient at my work. And what's the best way for me to be efficient? And then after hours, I have my running, and just to keep me grounded. And then when I do these workouts, I feel better. I feel more confident. I come from like a more calm place. Like, when work gets crazy, like my mind is calm. I'm able to handle situations much better.
Yeah, I think that's really huge is you found your modality. For some people it's running, for others it might be meditation or yoga, or having some kind of physical release is really important. And moving your body is absolutely critical, but also having that meditative time. So I love that you've been able to do the physical aspects along with the meditative aspects for you, but you found that. And that's so important for everyone to have, because if you don't give your mind a break, it's going to stop for you. So now, what are some of the specific results that you've gotten from being in the world of personal growth and development?
I've just seen a big shift in my life, both professionally and personally. Professionally, my career over a span of 4 to 5 years grew a lot, like at a pace that takes much longer for other people. The opportunities that I've gotten, the responsibility that I have, like people who work, 30 plus years might not get. And that has been my journey. I feel like I've just had this accelerated growth. And I think it's because I've been able to show up better, and take on those challenges and be the person I want to be in that leadership role.
That's huge. Congratulations. And what difference has it made in your life? You said, I show up different. So what are some of the ways that you do show up different in your work, right? You've mentioned time blocking. You've mentioned that you are able to stay more calm. How else does that show up in your actual day-to-day?
I think the main thing is I keep coming back to the important, which I think is what is very easy to lose in my industry, because there's so much stuff going on. We stop focusing on the important. We kind of get caught up in whatever's happening, and we might start working on things that aren't going to give us the most value at the end. So just being able to come back to that place of what is important, and also following through and fully executing. So something I see is, it's easy to start something. It's not easy to finish something. And just being able to follow through, fully get it done, move on. Just being able to establish that within my own team. I think like everybody feels better. Like when they get something done, they see it live. They see the values it has brought. Like that has been a big shift. And I think if we just like let things happen, we wouldn't have been able to achieve the results, achieve our wins the way we have.
And that's huge. And I think so often people underestimate the value of starting and finishing something, seeing it through right to completion. That's such a simple seeming gift, but 9 out of 10 times we start and we stop, 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 and then things just don't get done. And you being able to teach that to your team, to demonstrate that, to make that the norm, that the culture in your team, it is so massive, because that's how results actually happen. Sometimes it's not even miraculous results you're going after, but because you actually get the results, you're 10 times further ahead of anyone else. And there is a book called The Myth of Multitasking. It's an older book now. We've talked about that. You got it. Yeah, you've got it close by. But multitasking is essentially a myth. You can't do more than one thing at a time. Your brain, if you think you're doing it, it's switch tasking, and it's like playing a tennis match or ping pong with yourself. And that takes extra time. There's so much energy, so much effort, and it's heavy, it's hard. And it's so much more effective to simply just start and finish something, or just keep your mind on one thing at a time. And I love how you've really been diligent about sharing that with your team.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed about other leaders in your industry, and how have you noticed that personal growth has helped evolve and shape them? This is something we were talking about earlier as well.
Yep. So I think there's different kinds of leaders. There's some leaders who share their journeys, and I think that's very powerful. And I think that more leaders should do that, because sometimes people wonder, how did so and so become a CTO or a CEO? Um, can I be that person? What's my pathway? How can I get there? And I think just sharing, what has really helped them get to the next level. Also, what kind of mentoring and coaching are they getting? I think most leaders, they get mentorship and they get coaching, but it just might not be talked about. And I see sometimes in presentations, like the way that a leader's presenting something, I'm like, you're getting coaching. I can tell from the way you're phrasing things, like your approach to work. It's um, that person was taught that. So I just wish that it was just more talked about as a society overall, like just giving back, like what has helped somebody become successful and giving back so that other people have that opportunity. And that's also something that I really love in my role right now is I am creating opportunities for others. And like, for me now, that's the fulfilling part, just seeing somebody else flourish. And that brings me joy. And I want to do more of that as I keep growing in my own leadership journey.
Do you believe that anyone has the ability to be quote unquote successful, to rise above and beyond if they just?
Yes. I think there's so much opportunity living where we are. Is just, I think we just need to seize it and believe that we can and work towards it. I think if you're willing and you know what you want, you will get there. And I think it's just taking the steps there. It's not going to happen overnight. Like people who are successful, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a long journey behind it. So it's just knowing that and going for it.
Yeah. When do you think if society were to introduce some of these basic skills that we've been talking about that you've learned and you've started to acquire, when do you think it should be taught? When do you think it should be introduced to people?
Early on. I think it should be in school. I think it really should be in school. I know it's like not a topic in the same way as like physics or math or English, whichever other class, but like it's such like a fundamental thing that it's just when you get into the real world, into the working life, it's very easy to get lost. And I think then it's also like, who is your manager? If you have a good manager, you're lucky because your manager will likely try to instill those things to you without even you realizing and help you grow. But you also might get a manager who doesn't have that skill set themselves. And like, you have to seek it out. You have to find it and you have to like find yourself to the opportunity that will help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah. So if we were to design high level curriculum, who you are, what you want, how to communicate with yourself and with others, how to make decisions. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your requested mix?
I think it's just techniques. I think those techniques I think will come a little bit later. Like for example, planning and time blocking. I think when you're younger, it's like I go to school, I do my homework, I hang out with friends. I think time blocking is not the same, but like in the professional life, like time blocking is like key, and like planning your week, planning what you want to do. So it might come a little bit later.
Yeah. You know, I spent a lot of time with my son at the cottage, and even when he was really young, he loved lists, and he probably got that from me. And I think I got that from my father. But what we would do is we would take a sheet of paper and divide it in 3 sections. And every section had like breakfast, lunch, dinner. So it had one meal. We made sure to include his outdoor time in the first 2 sections, because usually at night it got dark, especially in the winter. And he would literally, even at 2 and 3 years old, we would go to the list. What do we need to do now? And it's so simple that he is used to, even he's 6 years old now. He's used to seeing an agenda, following the agenda, he's very reward motivated. He said, oh, well, if I get this, and this done, we've discussed and negotiated this reward or this compensation. And I don't think I ever had that kind of discipline. I don't know if it wasn't taught, but I look at him and I'm amazed because this 6-year-old child knows how to just, he will keep coming back and checking. Sometimes I have to remind him, but he also knows that if there are certain expectations, if I meet them, then this is how it goes. And sometimes we have to course correct. He doesn't like that yet. We're working on that. But it's actually, it's a fun experiment to even notice how children that are young are capable of learning some of these skills. One of the things we did with him when he was younger as well is we would give him 2 outfit options. Do you want the blue shirt or the red shirt? And he would pick. He is an excellent decision maker. Like his decision-making skills exceed mine and my husband's, which is crazy. He can decide so quickly. Do you want this or not? No, I want this instead. And I think that's I feel like even parents shouldn't underestimate the value of some of these things that they're learning in business and in life. And some of these higher level skills, it might be executed differently, but from elementary school to high school to university, making it obviously age appropriate. But these are things that when you're younger, you just make them a part of your life. And if more people started to think differently, if more people started to be more generous with themselves, with their time, with their hearts, with their souls, it's not just about effectiveness. The whole world could be such a powerful and beautiful and collaborative place. And that's certainly something I've noticed and I have a pretty strong conviction about. So is there anything else that you would love to share?
I think if you're watching this and you don't love your life and you feel like you're living on autopilot, just know it doesn't have to be that way. You can change your life to what you want it to be. I think it's just taking a step there and finding your people that will help you get to where you want to be. So I think that's the final thing I would share.
Beautiful. And it's just start today. You're never too young. You're never too old. You just pick up and start wherever you are with whatever circumstance you've got.
Yep.
So if people are interested in connecting with you, where can they find you and how can they connect with you?
For professional purposes, you can find me on LinkedIn, Iryna Lisinska. If you want to see running content and cat videos, you can follow me on Instagram.
Lovely. We will put those in the description of this video. So if you do want to connect with her, then you can absolutely do that. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your journey. I think hearing the stories of more people that are excelling, that are thriving, and specifically what they are doing, like you said, can be so inspiring. And you never know who's listening. You never know whose life you're going to change, because when you make a difference in your life, it will have a ripple effect and it will keep going and going and going and going and going. So thank you for making such an impact in your worlds and to those that you serve, those on your team and those that are affected and impacted by your company, by the work that you do.
All right. Thank you, Larissa, for having me. And thank everybody listening.
Bye for now. We'll be back again next week.